Hello and welcome back to the ministry, and today we are talking about who we are. Who are we, really? A lot of times we get caught up in our day-to-day things that we have to do, what it is that we're working on, how we're working on those things, what it is that we're trying to be involved in, and what we are developing. And we lose contact and connection to what's real. What are we really? Who are we really? What's really going on? How we are connecting to people on a intimate level. What does that look like? I'll never forget, it was about 7 to 8 years ago. It was early in my journey and walk with the Lord. And I remember I was sitting one day at the park, spending a lot of time just really separating myself in a way that was more cohesive to what it was that I was desiring to do at the time. And I was sitting and just coming up with and pondering life, leading, guiding what it was that I was seeking to do and where I was seeking to go at that particular point in time. Spending a lot of time with the Lord, separating myself from everything else that was going on around me. And I had to take that time and really think, what was it? Who am I? And I remember that during that time frame, I remember there was this young woman, and she was on the phone, not too far away from where I was sitting, pacing the ground, talking about she was separating herself from the situation in which she was living in at the time. She was no longer going to be in the relationship with the person she was with, and she had children, and they were separating, and they were separating the house, and this and that, and the other thing that she wanted to do, and she was talking on the phone about it, and I was like, Lord, that's a lot. And the Lord told me, go pray with her. I said, excuse me? Oh, okay, let me see here. I start praying in my mind about the situation, and the Lord said, no, go pray with her. I was like, excuse me? You want me to go pray with her? Like, as in me and her together, us in prayer? They said, yes, go pray with her. And I'm like, okay. So I get up and I go and I pray with her. And she accepted. Because not everybody is very inviting if you walk up to them as a random stranger after hearing their conversation and then saying you want to pray with them. That seems like an intrusive moment, don't you think? But she said yes. I accept the prayer, and I stood with her and I prayed into every area in which I heard that she needed prayer for. And I went back and I sat down. She turned to walk away from me. And it was like she turned back. And when I tell you, this woman, I lie to you not, as God is my witness, she looked up in the sky like she literally was hearing from God herself in that moment. And she said, it's done. And I said, what? You had to be there to witness it in order to understand. What is the human connection that you have to people? How are you connecting? How are you sowing? How are you feeding somebody else's soul? How are you impacting someone else in an intimate time frame and an intimate task? How are you intimately showing yourself in that element? How? How are you helping other people? What are you doing that's different? How are you changing somebody else's life? I remember I went to a business event, and it was the first day of the business event. It was around that same time frame. And when I was there, I just so happened to recognize where the food places were in the area, even though, ironically, I wasn't eating that day because I was consecrating. And I was on my way back to help somebody who said, hey, where's some place that you can eat? I said, oh, it's a Quiznos right around the corner there. And I led them to the Quiznos. But when I led them to the Quiznos, there was a man that was laid out next to the door. You could tell he was older. He was a bit dirty and homeless. And I remember the man was sitting there, and he said, do you have a couple of dollars? Now, most people, especially the way that I was dressed that day, I had on a full suit and everything, would probably not have walked up to this man at all. Wouldn't have walked up to him, wouldn't have said nothing to him, wouldn't have known. But you know what? This particular day, I walked up to him and I gave him the last $4 that I had. I had a full day bus pass, so I didn't have to worry about anything. But I went to that man and I gave him my last $4. And then I started to talk to him. I started to ask him, why are you here? And I actually did something that a lot of your gurus would call the why factor. Why are you here? Why are you here? Why are you here? And I started digging deeper, and he started to explain himself, and he started to explain why he was there. He started to explain about his family. He started to explain about all of these things in relation to his lifestyle. Most people would never, ever stop and ask a homeless man, why are you here? And I started to dig in and dig deeper, and I started to express, you know, you don't have to be here. I started to encourage him. I started to tell him that I've seen multiple situations that can cause a person that if you desire to, you can get up and you can get out of that situation. You can get out of that situation. You can get out of that situation. To this day, I actually wonder where that guy is and if my encouragement actually impacted his life. Because he said that he had a family that was involved in finance. They owned businesses. I don't know whether it was franchises or in relation to a franchise or the owners of the franchise. But he got caught up. He went in the wrong direction, and because of that, he ended up becoming distanced from his family, ended up becoming homeless, ended up becoming a drinker, ended up becoming all these types of things, and ended up landing on the street. And he had been on the street for 25 years. You don't know these people's stories. People forget that these people are people. They're people. They were people before they ended up in that situation. But it seems like it's easier to forget them. So I gave him as much encouragement. I told him and managed to get him to get up. And I said, I want you to get up off of this corner, and I don't ever want to see you on this corner again. And this man cried. When I tell you he cried, I'd never seen a grown man cry the way I saw this man cry that day. He grabbed my hand and he said thank you. He profusely thanked me for the encouragement that I gave him. And I don't believe he stayed on that corner. I prayed with him. And you know that man grabbed my hand and he prayed with me? He prayed with me. When I tell you God will send people to you in the packages that you would least expect, this man prayed for me. I didn't even realize I needed praying for. But look at how God will send people to you. But things go by. And before I go back in, I ran into another homeless woman, and she was asking for money as well. But I sat down with her and I prayed with her as well. talked to her. I prayed with her. And in that moment, I came to the realization, we can have day-to-day conversation, but sometimes what a person really needs is for you to sit down and pray with them. You may not even know what they really are dealing with. Some people look at you will look at these celebrities, these CEOs, these people that own businesses, these people. Sometimes the one thing that they need more than anything that you could ever expect for them to ever need is that. For somebody to sit down and say, can I pray with you? How can I pray with you? What do you need? What do you need God to answer for you? Because people have this assumption because people got money that all their problems are answered by that finance. Yes, money answereth all things. But a good prayer can give you favor in areas that you really need the help in, that money cannot buy. Can connect you into circles, situations, and scenarios that you can't buy your way into. The door is shut, locked, cauterized, and you can't even get in that door. But a good prayer from the right person will break free a season that you've been trying to get out of for years. What are we doing as people to connect? How are we connecting with people? How are we connecting through people? How are other people connecting through us? You can sit up here and create all these business endeavors. You can make business moves. You can slap God's name on everything that you put your hands to. But what are you really doing? What is this really about? Are you here because you're really desiring to help somebody? Or are you just here to see how much money you can get before the end of your life? Because it even says in the Word of God that there will be many that will get to the day of judgment with the Lord. And He will turn to them and say, I will never knew you. And it's like, but I did all these things in your name. I never knew you. Because you see, God is in us all. God will send His angels to us in the bodies of the people that we least expect, that He would desire for us to bless. I remember I was in a scenario. There was this man, and I'll tell you, I lie to you not, lie to you not, lie to you not. This man was, how do I phrase this? Highly and very agitated in his form of lifestyle choice. He would scream every night, have an issue with everybody. He'd walk around with earrings in his ears, pink jacket, making all these issues, screaming and hollering, all this kinds of foolishness. But you know what? One night I was walking past him, and I saw him, and I said, he was in a nice jolly mood. I don't know whether he was high or not. And I said to him, you know what? Since you being all kind and nice to me, come let me pray with you right quick. And the only reason I did it was because I heard the Lord in my ear say, pray for that man. Because I was like, I said hello and was turning to go away. And God said, go back and pray with him. I said, what? When I tell you this man was possessed like the Galatian man 95% of the time. But when in this particular moment, I don't know that he was high or what. He was happened to be very nice. Very nice. He walked up to me and said, how you doing? I said, you know what, can I pray for you? He said, yes, sure. I took his hands, I started to pray with him. When I tell you the heat that came through my hands into his, he said, my hands are hot, my hands are hot, my hands are hot. From that point forward, anytime he saw me, he said, what you need? You need anything, I got you. God will turn and make your enemies your footstools when I tell you. But you have to be obedient, because God will send some of the strange situation into your path, and you will be sitting there like, not me. And God will say, exactly, that's why I'm picking you. You do it. For we are meant to be the light in a dark place. I know God used me to be the light in a dark place for 4 years. I know I'm obedient to the Lord. I'd have left that situation long before then, had it not been for me desiring to be obedient to the Lord in that time frame. So, what am I saying? I'm saying that we have to remember who we are as human beings, and remember human touch, human connection, and the fact that we are humans that feel. Everybody has problems. Everybody's going through something. And it's through our human connection that will make the difference in somebody else's life. But you got to be willing to make the connection for the sake of God and for the sake of His people. Be led by the Lord, and let the Lord lead you into the manifestation of the things that He's called for you to do. Be a blessing. How can God use you? This is Taj McCameron for the ministry. Much love, faith, peace, and blessings. Bye-bye.